Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our session this morning, our professional development session #1, Diverse Women in Leadership. And I am so grateful for this opportunity, and thank you to Dr. Saehya for putting this fabulous panel together in this excellent topic. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think you'll enjoy this next hour of conversation. So just to get started, we had a conflict with one of our panelists. Dr. Leah Dopson could not join us today, but I know she's here with us in spirit. So I just want to let you know that I'm going to chime in a little bit more than usual and share my experience as well. But of course, Dr. Ann is here and Dr. Best is here, and we're going to have a great conversation again. So can we start really quickly with introductions and just say a little bit about our experience really fast, if you don't mind. I'll go last. Why don't you start first, Dr. Ann?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Let me stop sharing here.
Okay.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, everyone, for actually having me here for this panel session. My name is Saehya. I am an associate professor and department chair here in the Department of Hospitality, Recreation, Tourism at California State University, East Bay. And also I am the current West Korea president this academic year. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mechelle Best, and I'm currently the interim dean for the College of Health and Human Development at California State University, Northridge. This is a recent appointment, and just prior to that, I was the chair of the Department of Recreation and Tourism Management.
Fantastic, thank you. And again, my name is Kim Williams, and I'm the department chair at the University of North Texas in the Hospitality and Tourism program. And formerly, I was the director at the University of New Orleans and a graduate coordinator there as well. So this is a friendly reminder. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A and in the chat, and I will monitor that and ask our panelists to answer those questions for you throughout the presentation. So thank you, but we'll get started now. Okay, so our first question, one of my favorite, and I was reflecting on this question when we first posed this to our panelists about developing our own leadership style. And this has definitely been a journey for me, thinking about how I have developed my style as a leader. And then also the differences that you note in your leadership as compared to your counterparts. So can you talk about that, Mechelle, with us for a minute? How did you develop your style and how does it compare to your counterparts?
A lot of it is really about observing other people, other leaders in their roles as they did their jobs, and seeing characteristics of their leadership that I really admired. And this started, I think, many, many years ago from high school, where I had a teacher who, regardless of what the issue was, would never raise his voice, would always remain calm. And that's something that I've carried with me throughout my career. I've seen leaders who lead from the front, who can also be led, so who lead from the center and lead from the back. And I really appreciated that because it says to me that even though you're the leader, there's always stuff you can learn. There are also additional paths you can follow. And leadership is about really setting that example that helps to pull the people that you're leading along, you know. And so I look to others to see how they lead and just copy the things that I liked. And I also thought about, and I think about this all of the time, about how I want to be led. So for the persons who supervise me and the ones in upper administration, I look at their leadership style and I think about, well, how do they lead? How do they share information? How transparent are they in decision making? How do they get input and buy-in from the groups and the people that they're leading? And some of it isn't always good, and I disagree with what they're doing. And so in my own leadership practice, then I tried to do the things that I thought they should be doing in terms of leading an organization or leading a group of people and so on.
That is an excellent point. And Mechelle, can I follow up, please? Because you said something that I appreciate. Do you feel like sometimes I'll hear students say, oh my gosh, I'm working for the worst supervisor. And I'll say, okay, tell me what makes that supervisor the worst supervisor you've worked for. But I see every experience with the supervisor as an opportunity to learn what you like and what you don't like, what behaviors you should emulate, and the ones that possibly that you should deviate, stay away from. So in your opinion, because when you say you like to observe others, are you seeking out people besides within your college or besides those, are you seeking out other people that you can emulate? How do you do that?
Well, my background is in industry. I came to academia pretty late. I'd already had an established career in industry. And so in that experience, I met many, many different types of leaders. And again, was able to observe them. Some of them ended up then being in mentorship roles for me. So I could observe them a whole lot closer than just somebody I'd say met at a conference or met at an industry event. And I was able to see how they were leading, how decisions were being made, who got called to the table, and so on. So I'm fortunate in having the experiences beyond academia in terms of leadership, and then experiences within academia, and able to, I think, combine different styles, based on the people I work with, student groups, and so on.
Thank you. Excellent. Saehya, can you share your experience with us?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. But I want to just make it clear that I'm still learning every day. And I know that my leadership, yes, and my leadership is not something perfect right now. But still, the two keywords that I explain my leadership style, and that could be the counterparts compared to others, is care and humility. I want to really mention that. I care about my team members, their work and situations like they're my family, right? I really do. And I listen to what they need, what they want, what they expect from me, from university, and at work. So I truly believe that when I do care about them, I'm sure that they really feel it. So that's the way how I do. And also humility is the value that I try to foster as a leader. I don't know more than anybody else. I am not better than anyone else. I am one of them. But the reason that I am holding this leadership position is because the work needs me, and then the organization needs my ability and skills. So humility always has been brought me to a better situation in my life so far. So the two keywords are care and humility.
I love that.
On that, one of my colleagues refers to that as leading without ego. So it's not about you. It's really about what you're trying to do, what needs are there to be met, and so on. And I think about what she says a lot. It's not about me and my ego. It's about what has to be done.
Fantastic. Thank you for those lessons. I'm writing things down as you're talking. So I put Saehya's 2 points down about care and humility. Mechelle, I love that, leading without ego. And then also I have a note about observing others. So thank you for that. All right, what's our next question, Saehya? Okay, great question. How can we cultivate our next generation of women leaders? So I'm going to talk about myself just for a minute. And I was reflecting on this last night, and I was thinking to myself, often I did not pursue opportunities to advance in my career unless someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, Kim, I think you would be awesome for this. Like, I didn't have enough confidence in myself. It was always somebody else who saw something in me that I did not see in myself. So how do we cultivate that in our next generation of leaders, particularly women leaders who may be like me, who didn't have that confidence and needed somebody else to say, hey, you're perfect for this, you should go after it? Saehya, you want to start with that one?
Of course I can. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mechelle already kind of mentioned this, and I think we are already doing it, being a good role model. It's the first thing I can think of that we should cultivate in our next generation of women leader. Kim, I still remember the first time that I saw you at the West Creek conference. I mean, virtually, but I still remember. And I was seeing that, oh, wow, the way how you talk, the way how you were handling the situations. And I saw that you were talking with the students, but also industry professionals and other colleagues in our field. Ooh, that's how I do. And then I'm learning, right? And also Leah, who could not join us, but I still, yeah, she's here with us virtually. So Leah, I met her back in 2016 at one of the conference in San Francisco. And she was holding the same position like now, Capoli Dean. And to me, she looks like a hugely successful woman in our field, I mean, who was a dean, right? And the way how she was talking, and she has charisma. But while I was talking, I learned that she's a Texas Tech University alumni. And then I felt that, okay, wow, she was one of us. So, and looking at the great role models, right? That's how I actually was shaped as a leader, I'm sure. So I think all of us who are already in the leadership position, we should be we should know that we are going to be the role model of someone else's, right? Even at this moment. And then that's why we should try to become a really good role model. And second thing that I can think about is we really need to encourage women faculty and also PhD or graduate students. Kim, I'm sure that you're going to agree with me this. We want to continue to expand our diversity in women's leadership. Think back when we're planning for this session, we did try to expand the panel diversity, but it was not easy, meaning that there were fewer diverse women faculty than we thought. So I think it's really the time that we encourage our women faculty or graduate students to become a leader. Stand up, raise your voice. Let's become a leader. You will do well. I think we should do that for them.
I'm jumping out of my chair right now. Thank you, Saehya, because first of all, it's very sweet of you to mention that. Yes, I do remember meeting you, and I'm thinking Saehya has a very good memory. And then how hard we had to work to find Mechelle, right? And so now it is my intention to stay connected with Mechelle and keep up with her now as a result of this. But the fact that we had to, how long it took for us to find Mechelle, right? So you bring up an excellent point about how necessary and vital it is for us to continue to motivate and inspire our next generation of women leaders. And it means for me sometimes just walking around our building and just saying, hey, what are you doing next? What are you doing now? But what's next? And by the way, have you considered a PhD? Oh, no, Dr. Williams, I could never do that. And I said, if I did it, yes, you can. So that's just a great point to do that. Mechelle, what are you thinking? What can you add to this conversation?
Quite a bit. We need to listen to what the women we know are saying and what they're not saying, because oftentimes it's what they're not saying that's their greatest desire. So if we can get to know these women around us, we have a better idea of what it is they're interested in doing. And then we can see how we can help them to move forward to whatever it is. Because I sincerely believe that wherever you get, whatever your goals may be, whatever progress you make, you have that responsibility to bring other people along with you. And I think in this regard, we need to be bringing more women along with us. That means listening to them. It means encouraging them to do the things they may not think that they would be able to do. And it means supporting them. But it also means investing in them. And investing could be my time, it could be my resources, it could be resources of my college. It could be finding opportunities that would work for them and encouraging them to go after those types of opportunities. But it really is about, I think at the core of it is about wanting to help these women progress and become leaders as well. And if we have that desire, then we will see opportunities where we can make that happen.
That is fantastic. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to the next question, and Mechelle touched on this earlier, so I love this when she said it. And I think the first question when you oh no, I'm sorry, we're going to another one first. Oh, my favorite one that we all talk about all the time, right? Some advice on balancing work and family life. Is it possible? And I tell you what, at one time I would have said, no, it's not possible. When I first started teaching in 2007 and I was trying to get tenure, I spent the night at work and my kids were on campus with me. Almost everybody on our campus knew my 3 kids for many different reasons, but mainly positive, I must say. But I watch this generation now and they strive for work-life balance. And so sometimes, there's this perception that they don't want to work hard and that they, as some people have said, they're lazy. And I said, that's not the case. They did something that we did not do, which is stand up for ourselves and say, we have to have this. So I'm so happy when I look online. I saw something today where somebody said, I took my mental health day today and I'm not at work. So I love seeing that, but how do we do that, particularly as women, because we find it hard when we're trying to balance kids, we're trying to balance relationships, we're trying to balance all these different things. How do we do that and be successful? Mechelle, you want to start with this one?
Sure. I think we practice what we preach. And I find that faculty in our types of disciplines tend to forget what we're telling other people they should do. So we tell other people they should strive for work-life balance. We tell them they should go and enjoy the outdoors. They should enjoy all of this entertainment. They should spend time with their families and build these bonds and so on. And then we allow work to supersede all of that. And I don't have children of my own, but I have a family, an extended family that's important to me. I have friends that are important to me, and I am important to me. So I have not had a lot of trouble balancing work. There are times when, everything peaks. And so I may feel like I'm working 24 hours a day. But that is for a time, and I don't allow that to be my life. And again, because I come from industry, and in industry, you always hear, oh, if you're a hotel manager or you're a hotel director, you work 24 hours a day. And I have never subscribed to that. So I think there are, again, opportunities where we can get away and we can self-care and we can care for others and we can engage in all of the things that we are telling other people about. And even engaging in those things provides us with opportunities to do work, because that's the field we're in. So I can easily be at some place being entertained and in some part of my head be taking notes about what I would want to share with my students. But I am enjoying what I am doing. I'm not in my office or on campus slaving away. And I think those things are important. There are times when we really need to be serious about the schedule. So on my schedule, I will put my workout times and I will plan meetings around my workout times because my health is important. So we need to get to a point where we prioritize some of those other things. It is not just about work, because if we work ourselves to death, we're no use to anybody else. So, they trying to strike that balance, whatever it may be, and a balance in my mind may not be even. It may not be 50% work and 50% free time. It may be 60% work and 40% free time in a given week or in a given month. In another month, it may be different, but I think we always have to be looking for how we can kind of even out some of the areas that we have in our lives so that we are living the lives that we encourage other people to live. Because again, we're meant to be leading by example.
Mechelle, I love that. So first of all, when you said, I almost jumped out my chair when you said, I am important to me, and I had to put that in the chat. I hope I didn't distract everybody with my typing. And then I went back to Saehya's key takeaways when we said as a leader that you need to practice care and humility. But one of the things that I learned, so I felt like I was so busy. I was working on a weekend and I would send messages out to our faculty Saturday, Sunday, like 7 days a week. And I remember one person coming in and said, boy, are you sure we're busy over the weekend? I tried my best not to look at all the messages you were sending us over the weekend. But what I realized, and I said, am I distracting you on the weekend by sending those messages? And she said, yes, I feel like I need to stay tuned to my phone because I don't know what message you're going to share next. So I just think that that's a beautiful example of how we need to practice what we preach. And so now I try my best not to send anything on the weekends to faculty, so that way that they can focus on themselves and recharge their batteries on the weekend. So thank you for that reminder. And besides the fact that we all need to be important to ourselves. All right, so our next question, thank you very much.
If I could just make a quick comment. So I also believe in people working when they work best. So I work best between midnight and 6 a.m. And people will get a ton of emails and so on from me, but there is no expectation that they respond. And that's also the case when I'm working on the weekends. And so I try to tell people upfront about what my work habits are, but there's no requirement for them to do the same. So even if I'm sending emails on weekends, it's not because I expect them to respond. It's just because that's when I happen to be working. And I'm quite okay with them responding whenever they are working. So I try to, for people, especially for people that I supervise, to make that clear that they're not expected to work because I'm working. They're also expected to take their time off and do whatever else they want to do with it.
I love that. That's an excellent point. And I'm smiling and laughing on the inside if she's on this call, Dr. Lisa Kennan. Almost every night we're on the phone. She knows I'm calling her on my way home. I'm like, I'm in a car, so I'm calling you with everything that I need your help with today. And we were on the phone until maybe 11 o'clock last night. And I know the group of people who are up at 11 o'clock with me at night, and I'll send those particular people messages. And I'm like, okay, I think you're up, like I know who they are. And the other people I have learned, like that one person that talked to me, I don't send them messages and I just wait for them to show up to work. So that's an excellent point. And I think extremely valuable when you have a leader like my dean knows. Usually I start, unfortunately, my best is starting at about 10 because I've been up all night till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, working and doing other things. That's when I'm my best. But she values that. She's her best at 6 o'clock in the morning. So we understand each other and it works extremely well. So thank you for that. That's an excellent point. Okay, another excellent question. This is the one that I thought we were going to discuss last time. And when Saehya, I saw this question, and I said, this is my favorite question out of every question we're discussing. But as a leader, how do you stay mindful of who's at the table and who's missing? And in a recent, something that happened the other day, we were putting together a group to focus on something. And somebody said, oh my gosh, I noticed a lack of diversity. And I noticed that there's not balance, that you don't have a good representation of people across the college. And I said, I'm so sorry, I totally missed that. And then I was very hard on myself and critical of myself for missing that. And then I said, okay, Kim, every time you put something together, you need to consciously make an effort. So that needs to be at the top of my list of things to do, that's a top priority for me, that I'm never too busy, that I forget to make sure that everybody's at the table. So tell me, Saehya, how do we make sure that we have equal representation and that all voices are heard and represented at the table?
Thank you. I was busy with learning a lot from you all already. Thank you. I really want to mention that to you all. So this question actually made me really think for a long time, because this is my first year I serve as a department chair. And I strongly believe that trying to create an inclusive environment at work is important. When it is not happening at work, maybe your team members are not working well in harmony, or when the faculty members not get along well with each other, they don't want to work with each other, or when they do not agree with each other and argue really big time. But as a leader, I have to remain neutral in my position. And also I have to make the final decision sometimes to move forward, right? To move the whole team move forward. And some people are not talking at all in front of everybody, but that doesn't mean that they don't want to participate in, or they don't have any opinion. So I usually do try to have different ways of communication, like anonymous votes, or, having a separate meetings, right? And they send emails, hey, do you want to talk about this? And try to actually invite them to the, issues and meetings, and also to increase the opportunity for them to participate in or express their opinion. Because as you said, Kim, all voices must be heard, and give the same amount of credibility is very important, right? So I try to be fair, and by using all the different ways, for those who are missing on the table, provide the same amount of information, same benefits, and same opportunity to make sure that no one left behind. That's how I do, actually. Thank you.
Thank you. Mechelle?
Well, I think it depends on the table. I mean, sometimes it's really obvious. It's easy to see who's missing because you just do a quick look around and you notice, wow, something about this just doesn't look right. Or I'm the only person at this table who looks like me. So, you can see immediately something is wrong. And this leads me back to where I mentioned leading from the middle and leading from the pack. Because sometimes it's not your table. It's somebody else's table that you're sitting at, but you look around and you notice that it's not diverse. So it's a question of who can I make this comment to make this table a bit more diverse and a bit more inclusive, because they may not have recognized how that table actually looks. And then in terms of who I bring to the table, it's easy to miss things when you're the one who is always doing whatever it is. But is there a trusted person that you can go to and say, hey, I put this group together, or this panel together. Can you look at it and tell me who is missing? Who should I have had there that I don't have there? And are there other people, beyond the immediate that come to your mind who could be a valuable voice in this, whatever it is? And I have a couple of colleagues who I do that with, and they'll also reach out to me and do the same. Hey, I'm thinking about this, and these are the people I have in mind. Who else do you think should be there? And how can we, could you reach out to them, or do I need to reach out to them? And how do we get them to be a part of whatever it is? And we also have to think about who is going to be impacted by that decision that has been made. And really, when we're talking about people who have a stake in things, the folks who are the most impacted are the ones who should be the first at the table, not the ones who are going to make the decision or who we think will make a good decision. It's whoever is going to be impacted by that decision who should also be a part of the decision-making process, or the discussion, or the initial stages, or whatever it is.
Mechelle, I love that. And I see Mel has a comment, or it's a question. How do you bring this issue up as a minority? And I notice sometimes if we say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, but I'm looking at this group and it lacks diversity. And it's like, yeah, because you're Black, you're bringing this issue up. Oh my gosh, you're an angry woman, or it could be perceived so many negative ways when you're just asking for that balance and to make sure that the right people are at the table. So just in your experience, Mechelle, what is one of the best ways you found, like you said, you find people that you trust? So I actually had two questions. And I think you alluded to this. Is it our responsibility as leaders to speak up and advocate to ensure that there's a nice, diverse group of people represented? So sometimes it's hard to speak up and advocate for that, or we're afraid of the way we'll be perceived if we step up and say something. But do you feel like that's our responsibility to do it? And then how do you do it in a way that people don't perceive it as they're being criticized, or that they overlook something, that they don't take it personal?
Right. So I think it's absolutely our responsibility, because if we don't raise these issues, they'll never get raised. But it may be a question of how the issues are raised. And when we look around the table, it may not just be that a Black woman is missing or a Black person is missing. It may be that there are a range of people who are missing. So when I talk about who is missing from this table, I'm going to talk about everybody I think is missing, not just the Black person that should be there. It's everybody I think is missing. Sometimes it has to be nuanced. So maybe there's a conversation and you say, I think if we could hear from this position, you know who's in the position. If we could hear from this position, that could give us greater insight into whatever that may be. we pull in some diversity that way. That person is not just a position. They're a whole culture, a whole community beyond them that influences how they do what they do as well. So we bring in diversity in that way. And sometimes it just has to be stated out loud. You know, we're talking about X, but you have no minorities on this panel. Or you have one woman on this panel, and we know that 50% of our institution are women. What are you actually saying? So even sometimes you can resort to the numbers and the proportions. Maybe this panel needs to reflect our institution, and it currently does not. So how do we get to that point?
Excellent, thank you. Saehya, especially for you, you mentioned that you're a new chair. How do you feel? How do you feel about this topic? How do you feel that addressing these topics and making sure that we do exactly what Mechelle is advising us to do, has that been easy for you to do, or do you find it challenging, and what has worked well for you?
First, it has been really hard. You know, there's a transition time actually to be a leader. I was a Ph.D. student and then become a professor. Transition time. It's a personal, you know, pace, how long it's going to take, and also people who sees you from the outside. Oh, she was in a baby doc and now assistant professor, associate professor, and now is a chair. So what I am struggling right now, you know what, let me take it back. Not struggling, but what I am really trying to do right now is, you know, creating the whole atmosphere that I am learning every day, but, you know, a great leader. But also, whenever I am missing diversity or, you know, on our table, going back to the faculty or team members and ask them their advice was been always working. I am still, my leadership style that I am still developing is try to approach, talk to them, ask them first their advice, listen, take what's very helpful and effective, but also tell them at the right timing. Let them know that this is my decision, this is my opinion. But also transition time, the reason that I mentioned is people also needed time to admit the fact that I am their junior faculty, but their chair. So I just wanted to be a little bit careful to approach to my full professors, senior professors, showing them my respect, but also let them know that this is the problem that I am having. We're missing diversity here in this meeting, committee, panels. What can we do? Could you please help me? That's the best way that I've been working and working really well so far. But I have to mention that as a first-year department chair, I'm still struggling and having a hard time to make everybody to be on the table. But I am working on it, and that I hope it's going to really work well. Thanks for the extra question.
I love the honesty, and I think that transparency, because I didn't have anybody. Sometimes things look so easy. And as a woman leader, most of the times in my career, it's always been men in those roles. And they didn't have a tendency to express their feelings about a situation or to share these types of issues that we're talking about right now. So I really thank you for sharing that and being so candid about your feelings, because I think it's so helpful to the attendees on this panel session. So thank you very much. Okay, our next question. I love this. Do you have any career regrets? My husband has this saying, and I think it was Michael Jordan who said it, that you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And that's like one of my favorite sayings. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So do we have any career regrets? And I'll just share with you I think everything is a learning opportunity. That's the way I envision everything, that I don't have regrets, because I was telling somebody when I was in church, and I keep saying this over and over again, not to turn this into something religious, it's just my personal journey. But I remember listening to a podcast and the priest said, God doesn't make mistakes. So I personally do not see anything as a career regret. Are there some things I wish I would have done differently? Yes. I wish I would have advocated more for myself, and I wish I would not have thought that I was not qualified for some opportunities early in my career than I did, and that I didn't need somebody to tap me on my shoulder to say that, Kim, you are good enough to pursue this opportunity. So Mechelle, tell me what you think about that. Do you have any career regrets?
No, maybe I've just been really fortunate. I've indicated before I'm not a morning person, and I've never worked a 9-to-5 job in my life. I worked in industry for quite a while before I came into academia. And there were days that I had to work early shifts, but it was never constant. It wasn't something I did 5 days a week or 7 days a week for years on end. It was just a part of a rotation. So I've been really lucky in that regard. And I've been fortunate to meet good people who became mentors. And they could have been at my level, they could have been at a higher level, they could have been at a lower level, because mentorship, like leadership, doesn't always have to be the person who supervises you or who is in a higher position. So I don't have regrets. What I have recognized is that not every opportunity that exists is an opportunity for me. And so there have been many opportunities that I've looked at and I've said, this is not it. This is not the thing that I want to wake up every morning and do, or that I can see myself waking up every morning and doing. And just because I am capable of doing the job because I have the skills and the knowledge does not mean it's a job for me to pursue. And I think I made that decision pretty early in my career. And even though I had certain goals I wanted to meet, there were opportunities that came up that were never a part of my career path. My career path never included being a professor. It certainly never included being a chair, and it never included being a dean. But when these opportunities came up, I looked at them and I reflected on where I was and where I could see myself being and how I wanted my time to work, and recognized them as opportunities that could work for me. But, I've had previous opportunities to apply for dean's positions. And I never did, because even though it was an opportunity for me. And I think that is important. And that's how I've been able to navigate my career path without looking back and regretting that I didn't do X or I didn't do Y. Because the things I looked at and I thought this would be perfect for me, or this would be an optimal situation, are the things I went after. And the things that I looked at and I didn't feel joy looking at them, I just allowed them to go by the way and recognize that somebody else could be in a better position, could be better in that position than I could be.
That is amazing. If you don't mind, Saehya, we're getting some excellent questions in the chat and excellent questions in the Q&A. So if you don't mind, we'll deviate for a minute. And if we can go through some of these questions, that would be fantastic. An anonymous attendee asked, as a woman of color in position of leadership, have you ever found yourselves not being taken seriously by your counterparts? If so, how did you deal with this? Oh my gosh, don't get me started. But just really quick, I have to tell you something that I have done, going back to something that Mechelle said. A lot of times, particularly because we're PhDs, we like data and we like information. So this goes back to an example that Mechelle provided, where she said, okay, if 50% of our students are this, or 50% of our college is this. So looking at the data and using that to rationalize a decision that's being made, because typically people would not argue with it, particularly PhDs. We love numbers and we love information and we love research, right? So sometimes it's doing something like that and going with facts, because we can all agree with facts typically. Now you can use facts. My husband had a book called How to Lie with Facts. So we know that can be too, right? We could do that too. But at the end of the day, so as a woman in leadership, how are we taken seriously? Sometimes I would do it that way. And then I think over time you build up trust also. Everything goes back to trust. And as a leader, and the decisions that we make, the way that we carry ourselves on a daily basis, as we've mentioned earlier, to model behavior, then people start to buy into the things that you're saying, or somebody said like drinking a Kool-Aid when we went to a Disney presentation, right? But as we model these behaviors, then people start to buy in, they start to trust, and then we can be our authentic selves, and people will accept us and take us seriously. But Mechelle, what do you think about that question?
I don't know that I've ever not been my authentic self. I may not always say exactly what's on my mind, but I may say a part of it. And sometimes that helps because I think I'm quite upfront with people about not doing politics. And I've always been that way. And I've had colleagues say to me that they respect and appreciate that because I'm not making decisions based on what you said somebody else did. I'm going to factor in what I observed this person doing and what my research shows and so on. So it is about building, part of it is building your reputation over time, people knowing what you stand for, people knowing that if you commit to A, you follow through on it, people knowing that when you talk about being an expert or having knowledge, you're not just saying it for the sake of saying it, because you can pull out that expertise and you can pull out that knowledge and you can share it with others. And I'll tell you an interesting experience I had with a group of students about maybe 4 years into my stint at CSUN. I've always taught grad classes, and I taught when I was a university student doing my PhD, and I always had my own classes. I was never a teaching assistant, but I hadn't taught graduate classes. And I took my grad class on a field trip, and it was something local. It was one of these farm experiences because I was teaching agritourism or something related. And so we got there. I am the Black woman in the group. We have white students. We have students from other races and so on. But I had a student who was around my age, and he was a white man. And so we get on the farmer's cart, and he immediately looks at this student and he thinks he's the person in charge of the group. And so there wasn't anything that I needed to say, because whatever he was asking was really nothing that I needed to show it was the person in charge. So I just kind of allowed it to happen. And my student said to me, "Doesn't that bother you?" And I said, "No, because when I open my mouth and I speak, there's no question about who is in charge or who is the expert in the room. So if we were having a conversation, he would never think that you're the person in charge, because that's just how my personality is." So a lot of it, I think, is about having that confidence in you and what you know and what you do, and recognizing that people are going to be whoever they're going to be, but they can only be that to a certain extent. And when it's necessary to pull out those parts, when it's necessary to show that you are the person, then you can do that. And you do that as much as you need to do in whatever situation you're in, so that nobody questions who you are in the room that you're in. But there's subtle ways to do it too, I should say.
That is awesome. I love that. And I tell you, that is something that I have needed to develop over time, is when to speak. And as somebody told me, it's okay to be quiet sometimes and not say anything. So Mechelle, thank you for that, because I agree with you. That's a skill that you have to learn. And I love the way that you handled and navigated that situation. And I think that's beneficial, particularly for our future leaders, to know that that's something that they need to practice. All right, Saehya, this is a question. We're getting some good questions that are coming in. So if you don't mind, I'll deviate from our list. And I see this next question, Saehya, if you'll take this one. What are the steps we can take to become leaders in academia?
What was the question again? Sorry.
Sure. What are the steps we can take to become leaders in academia?
Steps, okay. I would say that, leadership, right, is something that you were born with partially, but also, as Mechelle and Kim mentioned so far, this is something that you can develop, right, while you're actually doing it in person. It's based on my experience. So you're going to be encountering so many difficult situations and problems and issues and different people from different culture, different age, different genders. You're going to meet so many different people, so many different situations, like COVID-19. Did you ever know that how you have to react to the students who refused to wear a mask in the classroom before this COVID-19 pandemic? Nope, I didn't know. But now we know because we have the protocols, and then we know now what we have to do, right? Because based on our experience. So my advice would be take your steps to take the leadership role, from the small one. Like, maybe you want to just volunteer things like in your department or at work. And then, maybe expand your leadership role from there. Small one, starting from the, volunteering small one, getting the middle size and large size. Like at the university, what I did was try to join as a department committee work, and college level and university level committee first. And then, now it's time for you to maybe take a look outside of the organization and then maybe serving as a board, like West Cree board, I Cree board, serving as a board and take the leadership roles and expand your span and ability to become a leader. That's what I actually doing it. And then that's how I think it's been pretty much successful so far.
Thank you so much, Saehya. And I love that because I can honestly say in my experience, I would volunteer, sometimes to be quite honest, at the expense of my research. But I put a lot of time into service for different reasons, sometimes because other people wouldn't step up. And I found traditionally that women were typically the ones who would step up to do the service, whether it was being a faculty advisor for a group, whether it's serving on a committee, because our counterparts were often focusing on research, which was vital to getting tenure, right? But I think in the long run, which is interesting, is that because I did so much service, I met a lot of people. Then I found mentors as a result of serving. And then I started to be given other opportunities as a result of that put me in more prominent positions where I could meet other people with higher affiliations. So everything always, sometimes you're like, why am I doing this? And don't question it, just do it, like Nike, right? Just do it, because you just never know where that opportunity will lead you. Mechelle, I have a question for you from one of our panelists. From one of our attendees, and I think her name is Gloria, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you for your question, Gloria. And it's, how can a good mentor be found? I'm a mother of 4 kids. I work full-time. I go to school full-time. I'm afraid that I won't qualify for certain positions because I've never had an internship. And I feel that I've missed the whole university experience. But Gloria, I'm giving you a big round of applause because it's never too late. And I'm so glad you are here and taking advantage of this opportunity. So Mechelle, what advice do you have for her about finding a mentor with her situation?
Well, I think there are a couple of different ways. I always encourage having conversations with faculty. So is there a person in your faculty that you can have a conversation about that could recommend people who could be mentors for you? Do you have an alumni chapter for your department, or does your university have a strong alumni association that you can tap into for some networking? What are you looking, and part of it is self-analysis.
Uh-oh, is Mechelle frozen?
What are you looking to get from a mentor? So have more than one mentor. Am I frozen?
No, you're here. You back. Yeah.
You were all kind of looking like, right? So you can have more than one mentor. So it really depends on what you're trying to gain, because let's say the person who can mentor you on finances may not be the person who can mentor you on relationships and navigating a network. So what are you trying to achieve? But I would say there's some kind of basic places where you could start. Talk to faculty, look at your alumni association, talk to colleagues, classmates in your classes, and see if any of them have a mentor, if any of them have connections in the field that you may be able to capitalize on. LinkedIn or similar are good services simply because you can see who is in your network. And it gives us a platform now where we can reach out to people that we have absolutely no relationship with, and we can say, hey, I saw your profile on LinkedIn. I wonder if I could give you a call, or if we could have a conversation about this thing that I saw you post that I'm really interested in. And you explain that you're a student. People are open to helping students. They may not do it professional to professional, but if you explain that you're a student, you're probably more likely to get a response than if you say, I'm a marketer and I'm really trying to figure this out. So I'd say look to some of those places, but certainly always try to use the resources that are, and then speak to your department chair about why there isn't a mentorship group set up to help students. And maybe it's time that your alumni chapter was pulled into doing some of that work.
I love that, Mechelle. And I'm smiling right now because I'm looking at the chats. Mel said boss energy with clapping hands, which is very cool. Janet's sharing some advice. She said unsolicited, but I love your advice. The best thing she's ever done is drop the irrational fear. I love it, stay the course. Britt said great panel, enlightening discussion. Thank you. Mechelle, somebody's asking for our email addresses in the chat. But I have another question that I saw in here. I'm sorry, we're running out of time. So let me see if I can get one more question that I thought I saw. Let's give advice, let's close. Is it our time now, Saehya? I could go on and on. Y'all are so wonderful that I could talk to you for hours.
Maybe, yeah, but let's just go with one more question.
Okay, one more question. Let's see. I'm getting a lot about our email addresses. I saw one, I think it was about, I'm so sorry, I was supposed to go back to it. I think it was one, how can you cope with gender discrimination as a female leader in academia? Thank you, Helena, for the question.
That is a hard question. As a woman and as a woman of color, I've had to build a spine of steel. And I'll tell you, in my situation, it's really different because I'm not from the US. And I came to the US many years ago, and I moved from being a majority in the country where I was born and raised to a minority in this country. And it's a very, very rude awakening. Visiting is one thing, living is another. But there's a mantra that I have, and not everybody will be able to connect to it. And that mantra is, the blood of slaves runs through my veins. And if my ancestors were able to survive slavery, there is nothing other than death that I cannot survive. And that is the perspective I start from, and I can work backward from that. I have no problem with calling out discrimination. And I have no problem tapping into resources that are available to me on my campus. And I can tell you, I've had an interaction with a colleague in another department that I felt was bordering on being discriminatory because not only am I a woman, but because I'm a Black woman. And I went to faculty affairs and I said, unless this is fixed, my next step is human resources, and I will be making a charge of racial and gender discrimination against this person. I have no problem tapping into resources. And there are things that are said to me, and I will ask pointed questions to the face of that person. And not everybody wants to do it. Sometimes it may seem to be confrontational. Not everybody wants to do that, but there are resources around you that you can tap into and take advantage of those resources if you ever feel in that position. And always have somebody that you can vent on so that you clear your head before you make the next step of talking to somebody else to help them to solve that problem for you. So you get your emotions out of the way. And in my situation, what I also have in my emails, I have a delayed response. So I may send an email and it sits in my outbox for 2 or 3 minutes. And that gives me some time to calm my head and to go back to that email and say, okay, maybe I need to tone this down. Maybe I need to ramp it up. But having those kinds of measures and having people that you can have these conversations with before the real conversation really helps a lot. But use your resources and use your networks.
Let me add one really quick thing to the question. Thank you, Mechelle. First, I learned too a lot. To me, gender harassment has also been issues, but then I am asked a lot still, when I walk on my campus, are you a student? Because of my look, and okay, maybe I look young, thank you, but still, whenever I go to the conferences, when I'm ready to lead the meetings, are you a student? So you're a student helper to help here? I'm like, no, I'm a faculty. And then also there's some times that I really, because I'm a woman, I have the situations that I have to really encounter and overcome because I'm a woman and Asian too. But I do believe that I will find out the right timing to come to you. It does not have to be the time that I am being harassed. I don't have to tell them, hey, don't do that, step back. I know that I don't have to do that as a leader. To show them I am a woman leader, I'm a faculty, I'm leading here this session and all that. And I'm gonna come to you, but I am looking for the right timing to show you as a leader. And people will look at me and, wow, she's a great leader. There is going to be the time. So I am usually waiting for the time. I'm standing up and raise my voice too when I have to. But I know also there's a time that I don't have to stand up right now, but I will let you know, and you're going to see that I am a leader here, and you're going to admit the fact that I'm a leader. I wanted to add that onto your answer. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for adding that.
I have to tell you, I'm so happy to be a part of this and just so inspired by both of you. Thank you so much for joining us on this panel session. And based on the chat, you'll see that everyone has truly been inspired. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and your guidance with us. And I'm going to close this session with this beautiful quote that I saw from Martin Luther King that says, faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. And when I saw that, I just fell in love with that, and I keep it on my phone and look at it every day. So again, I hope you feel inspired and keep doing wonderful things. Thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the West Federation Creek Conference. Thank you.